Welcome back, everybody. This time, we're diving into a topic surrounding the idea of generosity
Oh, nice.
and honoring others.
Yeah.
And, the story that kind of kicked off this whole deep dive is the story of the Magi,
The wise men.
the wise men, yeah.
Yeah.
And the gifts that they brought to the baby Jesus.
Well, and the story that everyone knows, right? But what our sources really hit on was this connection between that act of gift giving and something much deeper.
Okay.
Something much more symbolic, particularly within, the Christmas story and all that means.
I mean, sometimes I'm so busy that I just kind of grab a gift card last minute.
Right.
So let's unpack this story and see what we can learn from these guys.
Absolutely.
To kind of set the scene, we're talking about that famous part of the story where these wise men, guided by a star, they arrive, they find baby Jesus.
Right.
Matthew 2.9:12.
And here's where things get really interesting, right?
Okay.
It's not just any presents that they bring. I mean, they show up with gold, frankincense, and myrrh.
Okay.
Each of these gifts are incredibly deliberate
Oh, wow.
and so packed with symbolic meaning.
Yeah, one of our sources pointed out something I thought was interesting.
Okay.
They said, can you imagine giving gold to a little baby at the church nursery?
Right.
Like, it just makes you think,
Yeah.
these were really unusual gifts.
Exactly. It's not like these are random trinkets or something like that.
Uh-huh.
There's real meaning behind this.
Yeah.
And to really get that, we have to think about, the symbolism that was so common in biblical times.
Yeah.
So let's start with the gold.
Okay, yeah, gold seems pretty straightforward to me.
Right.
Wealth, royalty, those
Right.
kind of things.
It's a powerful symbol.
Yeah.
And to present that to baby Jesus was a very profound act.
Oh, wait.
It signified the Magi acknowledging his kingship, his future kingdom.
So not just any baby, but a future king.
That's right.
Wow. Okay, so what about frankincense?
Yeah.
I know that's been used in religious ceremonies, for centuries, right?
Oh, yeah. Frankincense has a really rich history.
Oh, yeah.
It was burned as incense, so it releases this fragrant smoke.
Right.
And in so many ancient cultures, including the Jewish tradition,
Yeah.
burning incense was directly tied to worship, to recognizing the divine.
So they were saying this baby is more than just a human.
Yeah, they're acknowledging his divinity.
Wow. Okay, now the one that always kind of throws me off is myrrh.
Yeah.
What was that even used for?
So myrrh had a number of different uses.
Okay.
It was used as a fragrance. It was an anointing oil.
Yeah.
But maybe most importantly, it was a key ingredient in preparing bodies for burial.
Wow. That's kind of heavy stuff to bring to a baby shower, right?
Well, it is a really powerful interpretation, and it raises questions about how the Magi even understood, Jesus's destiny.
Yeah.
But what's really fascinating is how these gifts connect to practices found in other ancient cultures too.
Okay.
So, for example, reverence for kings often involved offerings of precious metals like gold.
Uh-huh.
And deities were often honored with incense and perfumes, much like frankincense and myrrh.
Yeah.
So it shows how the Magi's actions really fit into a broader understanding of how people showed respect and honor to figures of great importance.
So we've got these three gifts, each with all this meaning.
Right.
But our sources suggested maybe there's another layer to this.
Yeah.
Something about prophecy in the temple.
Yeah, some scholars believe these gifts weren't just symbolic,
Okay.
but they were also prophetic.
Oh, wow.
And they point to the temple of the Lord,
Yeah.
the central place of worship in Judaism. And what's interesting is that gold, frankincense, and myrrh were all present in the temple, used in rituals and as offering.
That's really interesting.
It is.
Okay, so I'm starting to see these gifts in a whole new light now.
Good.
But what does it mean for us today?
Right.
I mean, how do we connect these ancient gifts to our modern lives, especially when we're thinking about, generosity and honoring others?
That is the key question, isn't it? It's not just about showering a baby with riches.
Right.
It was a deeply symbolic act of recognizing who Jesus was, his kingship, his divinity, his ultimate sacrifice. And maybe that's the challenge for us. How do we express that same level of honor and understanding in our own lives?
Yeah.
How do we move beyond, the quick gift card and really think about the meaning behind our actions?
Yeah, that's a good question.
It is.
It's a really good question.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
It's tough, right? I mean, there's so much pressure to buy,
Yeah.
especially around the holidays.
Yeah, it is. It really is.
It's easy to kind of lose sight of, what it's really about.
Yeah, and one of our sources put it this way.
Right.
They said, as silly as it may sound, we can actually use the story of the Magi to guide our holiday gift giving.
So how do we do that? I mean, how do we actually use this story?
Well, I think if we take a cue from the Magi, it becomes less about finding that perfect present and more about understanding that why behind our giving.
So it's more about being thoughtful, being intentional.
Exactly.
Just like the Magi were.
Yeah.
Okay, but I don't know. I mean, it feels like a new kind of pressure, almost.
I see what you mean.
Yeah.
We don't want to create a new set of holiday anxieties.
Right.
But I think that the key here is really just to kind of shift our focus. Instead of stressing over finding, the most impressive gift or the most expensive thing.
Yeah.
We can ask ourselves, how can I honor this person in a way that reflects who they are?
Okay.
What they value?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
It's not just checking a box off a list, right?
Right. Exactly.
Our sources also talked about this idea of giving responsibly and honoring those who often go unnoticed.
Yeah, they were really emphasizing recognizing the people who've impacted us in ways that often go unacknowledged.
Okay, so who are they talking about?
Well, it could be, a teacher who really inspired us, a mentor who guided us, even a quiet neighbor who always lends a helping hand.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a good reminder that generosity isn't always about, spending a bunch of money.
Exactly.
It's about acknowledging the value you see in someone.
Yeah, and sometimes those are the people we take for granted the most.
It's true.
And that acknowledgement can take many forms.
Yeah.
The source even suggested, simple things like a handwritten card or paying for someone's meal.
Right.
It doesn't have to be extravagant.
That reminds me of this time a few years ago.
Oh, yeah.
There was this barista at my local coffee shop.
Okay.
She was just so kind and so cheerful always, even when the line was out the door.
Yeah.
I knew she was going through a tough time, and I wanted to do something to just show her that I appreciated her.
What'd you do?
I baked her some cookies, nothing fancy, just my grandma's recipe.
Oh, nice.
Chocolate chip cookies.
Yeah.
And just wrote her a little note
telling
her how much her kindness brightened my day.
That's so sweet.
It wasn't much, but she seemed really touched by it.
See, there you go. That's a perfect example of honoring someone in a meaningful way.
Yeah.
It was the thoughtfulness,
the
recognition of her value as a person that really mattered.
It's funny, we think of generosity as these grand gestures,
Right.
But really it goes much deeper than that.
It really does. It's about recognizing the inherent worth, the dignity of every person, and finding ways to express that recognition in a way that's real, that's authentic.
Yeah, it's about, looking beyond just the material stuff and focusing on the heart.
Yeah.
So how do we find those people in our lives? The people who deserve that kind of honor?
One of our sources made a point that really resonated with me. He said that honoring others often means honoring those who haven't been recognized enough, who haven't been appreciated enough.
Yeah. Who are those unsung heroes in our lives?
Yeah.
Who are those people who constantly give without expecting anything back?
Right.
I think it's easy to overlook those people sometimes. Like the people who keep our cities running.
Yeah.
Who collect our garbage.
Yeah.
Who deliver our mail.
It's true.
They're the backbone of our communities.
Yeah, they are.
But we don't really stop and thank them very often.
That's a really good point.
Yeah.
And it is a challenge to be more aware of those folks and to find ways to really express our gratitude.
Right.
It requires us to shift our focus from ourselves to those around us and to actively look for the good in others.
In a world that often feels so divided, so self-centered, that kind of perspective is so important. Like we're so focused on our own little bubbles,
right,
that we forget about the larger community that we're a part of.
And by choosing to honor others, we're not just acknowledging their worth, but we're actually contributing to a more positive, a more compassionate world.
I gotta say, this whole deep dive is really giving me a lot to think about.
Good.
It's a good reminder, especially as we're heading into the holidays.
And remember, it's not just the holidays, right? I mean, these are values we can embody all year round.
Yeah.
Making them a part of how we interact with the world around us.
That's a great point. That's a really great point.
Yeah.
Yeah, this whole conversation has really shifted my perspective about giving, especially as we head into the holidays.
Yeah, it's easy to get swept up in all the frenzy.
Right, exactly.
But what we've been talking about, it's really about those people who make our lives richer.
Yeah.
So as we kind of wrap up here, what's the one thing you hope our listeners really take away from this?
That's a great question.
I think it all comes down to this generosity and honor. They go way beyond material things, right? It's about recognizing, the inherent value in other people and expressing that thoughtfully, intentionally.
Yeah.
It's about the heart, not the price tag.
That's well said.
Thank you.
It makes me think about those cookies again.
Oh, yeah.
It wasn't really about the cookies. It was about letting her know that I saw her. I appreciate it.
Exactly. It's about making that connection.
Yeah.
Letting someone know they matter.
Yeah, and it doesn't have to be complicated.
Right.
Yeah.
Sometimes the simplest things can make the biggest difference.
It's true. It's true. Well, this whole conversation has really inspired me to be more mindful of how I honor people in my life, not just during the holidays, but all the time.
It's easy to get caught up in the day-to-day and forget to really express that gratitude, but when we do, it not only makes their lives richer, but ours as well.
So as we leave our listeners with something to think about, a final thought, what would you say?
Well, here's a question I'd love for everyone to consider. Who in your life deserves to be honored?
Yeah.
And how can you, show them that honor in a way that really speaks to them?
Yeah, that's a great question.
I hope so.
It's an invitation to just pause, reflect,
absolutely,
and then act.
Exactly.
Because, in the end, it's those little things that really make a difference.
It's true.
Well, this has been a fantastic conversation.
Yeah, it has.
Thanks for joining us for this deep dive, everybody.
Absolutely.
We hope you found it as insightful and inspiring as we did.
I hope so.
Until next time, keep exploring.
Yeah.
Keep learning.
Keep diving deep.
And keep diving deep.